G'day fans and welcome back to another exciting episode of DNA Reviews. And is this a damn good one? We've got lots of very exciting stuff to talk about, which is very, very cool. A lot of people are really happy about the episode that's coming up. Mr. Aaron, how you going, old son?
I'm going really well. It's been a good week. Lots of people have come into the store and talked about last week's episode. So I know everyone's going to want to hear our opinions and also have a bit of feedback themselves. I think it's going to be an interesting night.
Well, I'd like to certainly hope to think so. And we were originally meant to be on Monday. We decided to bring it back one day early to Sunday night. So we just couldn't hold off any longer. And I'll tell you what, there is so much to cover off in this particular episode. It's absolutely madness. So the episode is called The Spies, and I've included the armorer's picture there for a specific reason, but we'll touch on that a bit later on. And as always, there will be spoilers. So if you haven't seen the episode or you don't want to be ruined about what happened within it, tune out now. But if you have been watching, tell you what, stick with us. It'll be very interesting to see how we transpire or go with this. And there's a lot of detail we've got to cover off. First things first, we're back on Coruscant. And I'll tell you what, you got to cue the Blade Runner vibes. And it's even raining because in Blade Runner it rained all the time. And I've got to admit, when they started with this, I thought, this is looking mighty fine. What do you reckon, dude?
I also have to say, I watched this and said, for a TV series, this actually looks better than the appearance in episode 2. With the rain and stuff, we watched episode 2 in the week because we often filter through everything in the shop. And I was watching this scene because of what's been happening in The Mandalorian and because of what's been happening in some of the Disney Plus shows. And when this came on, I said, well, I thought to myself, they can't get any better than this. This looks spot on. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree. For a TV show, you'd think it's cinematic quality. It's quite amazing how they make the images look that good. But it helps sell it. It helps to sell it. And that's the most important thing. Great atmosphere. It just makes you just immerse yourself into that world. And I've got to admit, right, so we see Elia Kane, and she walks around the corner up this laneway. And the probe droid thing, oh, dude, how good was that? And as we've guessed, and we've kind of figured this out, she was working for Gideon all along. She announced herself as TK2755 because TK is technically a stormtrooper number, so I'm not entirely sure how that worked, but not to worry. But this part was really groovy. When the probe droid came down, I thought, that is really pushing my buttons.
Yeah, I thought that too. And also, I'm stupid because, of course, a lot of the names in Star Wars are sort of indicative or a hint to how the characters are. And her name's Elia. And I just noticed that in this episode. And I was just like, that's like Grievous and Maul and all of this. It's another negative name for the bad guys. And I'm just like, I'm so dumb that I've only just noticed this.
Tell you what, you're right. That is so obvious a liar because she's it's like was it Alan Sleaze Bango or whatever his name is? It's just like the name describes who they are. Oh, so obvious. Yeah. We need to just like disconnect right now.
Did you pick that up before though?
No, never even registered. So there you go. Because I think at the time we weren't 100% sure. Now it's being completely confirmed. So she's working for the New Republic as a reformed Imperial, but clearly she's working for the Imperials and for Gideon, who we now know has escaped and is like doing his own thing, which we're going to see in a tick. And that was particularly cool. But that sequence, I've got to say, was absolutely outstanding. And some people said, how can probe droids be on Coruscant? But Coruscant is so big, they could be hiding anywhere. So,
the other thing we've seen in the previous episode, they've reprogrammed Imperial droids to do other work. So why couldn't a probe droid be there? Someone would just think it's delivering pizzas.
Rico said, or it could be that Jedi with a long neck. What was his name again? Uriel Puff was his name. So make of that what you will. And that is a true. That's actually from the Phantom Menace.
I pronounce his first name Uriel.
We move on before we get strikes and whatever else. All right, so we're dealing with Gideon, right? And of course, now I found this interesting. This confirmed from this discussion here, and there's a lot to dissect from the next few minutes, so we're going to have to bear with us, that he was behind the whole Gorian shard. That was the pirate attack on Navarro. So he obviously organized that, contacted Gorian and said, go and attack Navarro. But I'm not entirely sure why. He's got this big fascination with the planet, and I can't work out what the big deal is. So unless he was planning to conduct experiments there or do something with the population or do something with grief, I couldn't work that one out. But he's got a thing for Navarro, and he organized the pirate attack. So make of that what you will.
Yeah, I thought I really loved this whole sequence because it's going back sort of into how the Empire are building up again. I really would have loved this at the beginning of the season rather than second episode from the end. I actually thought if this was the first episode of the season, this would have been a really amazing debut episode.
Could be too. And I do like this from Daniel. You imagine the probe droids being used for the Amazon like drone delivery service. One of those rolls up in the front door to drop off your pizza or your parcel. You go, oh, dude, I'll just take you instead.
That's like you'd hear wow, 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 and you go, oh, the pizza's here.
Dude, and what you do is as you slap it, it blows up, and you go, oh, I didn't hit it that hard. It must have self-destructed. Oh, boom tish. Very, very cool. Very good. He probably doesn't want to see major city close to Mandalore. Have they said if the planets were close? Probably said he doesn't want to see. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many planets in the galaxy. For whatever reason, Navarro is a bit of a hotspot for Gideon. Make of that what you will. It's where we go. So you've been hanging out there since the beginning of season 1. So what the hell?
I did like, which I didn't notice in the first episode, when you see Navarro sort of in the long shots, it still is this craggy desert planet, and then right in the middle of it you've got Galaxy's Edge that looks fantastic. And I did think that was a little bit funny. Yeah,
it is literally like Las Vegas, just this big city in the middle of nowhere. Sticking with the Gideon thing, I gotta love is channeling his inner Darth Vader here, right? He's got the long cloak going on, walking down the gantry. I'm not entirely sure what the deal is with the beams that he's walking through. I don't know if they're ray shields or whatever. It looked good. Right, and because we haven't seen the what we thought were stormtroopers, but they're death troopers. We haven't seen those guys before, I don't think. And I thought visually it looked cool. So he's probably striding down this gantry, thinking, "How cool am I?" But of course, in his world, no one can see that. But loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it reminded me very much of episode 1 on the power station underneath Threed City. You know, with the opening and closing walls of laser that sort of when they're fighting.
Oh yeah, that was in Phantom Menace. I mean, I think they were supposed to be ray shields as well, but as to why he's got them here, I'm not entirely sure. Could be. Who knows? Daniel said Navarro's where he had the base before, so it wasn't all destroyed in season 2. Yeah, I know, but I mean, you would have thought he's moved on, so he's got obviously a base on Mandalore now. So what is the fascination with Navarro? I'm just not entirely sure what the link is, but you know, it doesn't matter. It's a big planet. He could have just had a base on the other side, but clearly he was keen to knock out Grief Karga and the city and do whatever. Anyway, it's not important. Are these Imperial Super Commandos? They are not, and we'll confirm that a bit later on because we know what the reason is, and we've got a theory as to what they might be. So sit tight, Daniel. That's at the end of the episode. You've got to just chill pill, son. We've got a lot to digest, so we'll plow through this as fast as we can and still get the details in. All right, so good old Gideon walks into the Shadow Council. What a groovy name. Now, for those who don't know, the Shadow Council first appeared in the novels Aftermath, which are all set after Return of the Jedi. It was created by Gallius Rax in 5A after the Battle of Yavin. That's 1 year after Jedi. And at this point, Gallius, I think it's how you pronounce it, has been killed off. But there's a Grand Admiral called Ray Sloan, and she's still around. And some people were wondering why Ray didn't appear in this council. So for whatever reason, they just didn't include her. But the Shadow Council has been around for a while. After Rax died, it sort of died off a bit, and then it's come back again in the form of these guys. But I tell you what, when this popped up, I thought I am really dialing into whatever they're going to say, and there's a fair bit to dissect from their conversation in the next couple of minutes. So, what do you reckon?
I was thinking the same thing, and as I was mentioning before, I thought this would have been a great start to the season with the Shadow Councils around. This is our goals. So we see that at the beginning of the season, and then you see how it progresses over the season. So from a story point of view, I'm disappointed that this is only entering at the second last episode of the season.
Indeed. Rico's asked, put your guess on who do they clone for the Imperial Mandalorians. The answer is actually in the episode. We will get to it. Sit tight. Stop jumping the gun. I squealed when I saw Pelion. I tell you what, I loved it. How grouse was that? He finally appears in live action. For a lot of people, they're going, who's this dude? And of course, he was Thrawn's right-hand man from the Heir to the Empire novels way back in 1991. He looks grouse in this. He looks good. He sounds good. And he's got a fair bit of authority. And I thought it was awesome that they put him in because they're obviously referring to Thrawn at this point. And it was very important to note that the whole local warlord thing that's been going on around the galaxy is just a deception. They've deliberately concocted it so people don't know how strong the Imperial remnant, using inverted commas, actually is. And I thought that was actually quite interesting that they've done that, because from last episode, if you remember, when you had the Quarren captain said, there's an Imperial warlord. So everybody thinks that there are just random dudes just running around, not realizing they're all organized. And I thought, Well done, guys. Well done.
I actually thought it was interesting. They are actually using exactly the same strategy as the the rebels were using in Andor, where they were doing random stuff all over the place, so
Yeah.
none of them could work out that it was actually a organized resistance. So it's kind of that echoing of what's happened before going again, but this time it's the Imperials instead of the rebels doing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting because they're all standing in a circle. I thought, I mean, it's just echoing what we used to see with the Jedi Council. They used to always be in a circle. And I thought, oh, isn't that funny? It's sort of like one's replicating the other.
Yeah.
Still sticking with the aftermath vibes. I mean, there's a long discussion I could have with this, but we don't really have the time. Dealing with the fact that centrists and populists, and this is the fact that there are people in the galaxy who liked the Empire, who supported it, and not fans of the New Republic. And I thought this is really important because in the galaxy far, far away mindset, it's always been black and white. Good guys, bad guys, right? And it's never the twain shall meet. But we're now seeing that there's actually a bit of a mixture here. You can have some planets that go, we liked it when the Empire was here. We're not a fan of the New Republic. They're bringing in, as this lady says, all the new rules and regulations. They don't agree with it. And that was all covered off in the Aftermath novel. So, unfortunately, what Star Wars originally was, where it's like the Rebel Alliance are all good, they can do no wrong. The Imperial Empire are all bad, they're always evil. Now there's a bit of a mishmash between the two, and there's a fair bit you can sort of take away from that. So, as we discussed in one of our episodes a few weeks back, there are people who thrived under Imperial rule, and obviously some planets that didn't. But it's not like everybody hated the Empire. That's significant, and they covered that off in this sequence. So, yeah, cool.
There are heroes on both sides, and one of those
That's
heroes
exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is, and it's hard. It all depends on what side of the fence you're standing on, right? So, I really like that they covered that off. So, sorry, I'm just get this in. The galaxy far, far away thing would let you believe that after Return of the Jedi and the Empire's been destroyed, and celebrate the love. The New Republic is utopia. And it's not. And that's what they were discussing here. Sorry, I did cut you off.
I was just going to say, one of those people who likes the Empire but doesn't seem to be evil is like the people like Cyril Khan, who like the order and the security that it provides. And you'd have people probably like the pirates and stuff preferring the rebellion, who aren't going to come down on as hard of them. So there's pros and cons to both.
True. So Colin's saying most bad guys who believe they're doing good things. We're not talking about the bad guys specifically. We're talking about the people who what they get from them. So in other words, I'm just an innocent bystander. I'm seeing the Empire as the government. I'm seeing the New Republic as the government, and the New Republic, they're rubbish. Bring me back the Empire. So it's not the actual people doing the thing. So, but they've covered that off in this statement. I thought it was really, really good. And you are right. So it did make some people rich. So you can imagine in the core worlds, they really supported the Empire. Out in the Outer Rim, probably not so much because they didn't really care. So anyway, we move on. I always love this sort of stuff. It really was really, really good. So for those who didn't pick up on it, it's Brendel Hux, right? So this is Armitage's Hux's father. So Hux we saw from The Force Awakens. This is his dad, and it's actually played by his real life brother, which I thought, as in the actor, which I thought was kind of cool. And they make a reference to Project Necromancer. Now, the only thing we don't know is whether that's to create Snoke or to clone Palpatine. And you can take guesses on either one. It's probably not important, but clearly it's a bit of a big deal for these guys. And I like the fact that his hat's not on straight. I don't know, just that sort of worked for me. So, but yeah, so it is Hux's old man.
Do you think that the Disney movies can be made better by retroactively giving them more backstory this way?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so as well. It could be one of those things where a lot of people who didn't think thought there was sort of no path and they just did it. Now you've got people who care about Star Wars who are going back and trying to link the trilogies together and giving them more backstory. And I was like, do you know what? This could improve some of the faults in the new trilogy.
You are right. The only downside, and I'm going to cover this off later on, where we see perfect examples of where things that have been produced in the future actually, as in like in real life, impact what's being produced today. But I'll cover that off when we get there, because it almost predicts what's going to happen in this particular show. Still sticking with the sequence because it was a long sequence. So I'll have to plow through all these bits because they're all important. Gideon is itching for Thrawn to appear, which is kind of funny because we as the audience are itching for him to appear as well. And of course, this implies there's obviously some disunity in the Shadow Council. So all the guys are all part of the whole support the Imperials and yada, 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 yada. But he's obviously in Gideon. He's clear to say, well, where's Thrawn? We just haven't seen him anywhere. And Pelion isn't prepared to give him up yet. So you can imagine it's not the harmony isn't entirely there at this stage, which I thought was quite interesting. And for that reason, Thrawn's existence is a secret. So even from the council, and I think this is why it's the New Republic think that Gideon is the main threat within the galaxy, because they've got no idea that Thrawn exists. And I thought that was actually quite poignant. So yeah,
I thought it was interesting that within the Shadow Council they hadn't even seen him, and I did
no,
think he was gonna start causing a bit of Gideon. I mean, causing a bit of contention, and the scene was going to end with Thrawn stepping out into the
no.
holograms where there was a place for him and sort of saying, pull your head in. I do think that's going to happen next episode, and that'll be the end of the series.
Could be. You never know. But what's important is that Gideon is clearly running off and he's doing his own thing. So he denies he's conducting his own cloning experiments. And we saw that he was Elia Kane stole the cloning stuff from the ship, which is what Pershing had. So he's instead of she being a liar, he's a liar. I thought that was quite funny. But even he doesn't know what the overall plan is. So he knows about Project Necromancer, but it doesn't know what it's all about. So there are things that they're keeping from him. Now, we had suggested in one of our reviews a long time ago, saying that when after Return of the Jedi and the Imperial Remnant all nicked off to the Outer Rim, that Gideon stayed behind because he was a bit of a low-level dude, and he sort of promoted himself, got some ships together and go, well, I'm now in charge, put my black uniform on, get my cape going, and I'm good to go. But maybe in the grand scheme of things, the others don't think that he's much chop at all. And for that reason, he's doing things off his own bat. He's taking his own initiative that the others don't know about because he himself doesn't know what they're up about. So make it that way.
It is one of those things with the Empire that there are always people who are scrambling to get up the ladder and be more secure and higher than them. I did think it was interesting in this that he wanted Praetorian guards to protect himself.
Yeah, that's true. And we'll cover that off in a sec. Ads has said he thought he was working for Thrawn. I think we all did, but it turns out he doesn't. So he's been kept in the dark, so to speak. And for that reason, Hux and Pelion are clearly working together, and they've got a lot of resources, apparently, for Necromancer. Make of that what you will. And the others aren't privy to it. So good old Gideon is kind of begging for his laundry list of TIE bombers and TIE interceptors and the Praetorian Guard and all the rest of it. And, of course, as we noted here, the Mandalorians are still classed as a threat. They're still worried about them. And that's why I thought it was interesting that good old Pelion nods to Hux, of all people, and says, all right, give Gideon his resources, and off you go, son. So, but as to who all these other guys are, I don't know. But, oh, geez, that was a damn good moment.
So do you think Thrawn was off screen saying to Pelion, okay, give them the resources? Or do you think Pelion's high enough up to just do that himself?
Ooh, that's a good point. So where we see Pelion giving Hux the nod, maybe he's been told off screen by, as you said, by Thrawn. Yeah, give it to him. Is there a way you go? I like it. There's a power between Hux and Pelion, and the rest are sort of just on the periphery, looking after their own individual sectors, and they're clearly not aware of what's going on. And of course, we don't know how much they know, because down the track you'll have the First Order and you'll have the Final Order, and we don't know who knows what at this stage. But and for those who are wondering, with Hux, he eventually gets knocked off. He doesn't survive until The Force Awakens, so there's a bit of a story regarding that. So, all right.
Well, the other thing is, when we reviewed our sort of celebration day last week, they showed the trailer for Ahsoka, and Thrawn was in that, but Gideon wasn't. So that gives you an idea of how the power struggle might go.
That's right. And this is the issue we've got with this show, right? So Gideon says, we shall be rid of the Mandalorians once and for all. Now, because they do not, as in the Mandalorians, do not appear in the sequel trilogy anywhere, it's possible that actually happens, right? Now, this is an example where, well, maybe Mandalore does get destroyed, Bo Katan, Din Djarin, they all get killed off because we never see them in the sequel trilogy. Now, we know why they don't appear in the sequel trilogy, because this is a new show, right? And the movies were years back. But that's one thing you can go, well, they clearly weren't around in those films unless someone's going to do a special edition and reinsert them back in. You never know. So maybe he does succeed. Wouldn't that be funny?
They'll do one of those little Star Wars tales where just around the corner on a scene, we didn't know all the Mandalorians were there or something working in the background. But they didn't even turn up in the big fleet at the end, did they? So it's highly unlikely.
Who knows? But if they did, they wanted to destroy all the it would fit canonically, because they don't appear anywhere else. Obviously, I don't think they will, but they could. Ads have said he thought Hux, it wouldn't be Hux, it would be Pelion, because Pelion and Thrawn sort of are together. Yeah, that's what we're sort of suggesting. So Thrawn is deliberately keeping himself out of everybody's eye. That way, Gideon remains the main focus.
Yeah.
Very good. Anything you want to say about that whole sequence before we move on?
No, just I thought it was one of the greatest sequences this series.
I agree. And there was a lot to digest. Now, admittedly, if you're just the public, and we have discussed this before, the show does cater for two audiences, the fan base and the public, right? They would have been completely lost and gone, I've got no idea what's going on. That's the downside to it. But it was a good sequence with a lot of meat in it. And I really like that.
Yeah.
All right, we finished with the Shadow Council. We're done. We're off to Navarro. First things first, right? They're still cleaning up everything. They got Jawas on Navarro. Have we seen those before? Because I don't remember.
I think we did. I think we have. I think they've supplied parts in episodes and stuff like that.
Yeah, could be.
Could be.
And I thought, are those Jawas actually cleaning up the rocks, or are they stealing all the metal bits?
Filthy creatures. I can't abide them.
Oh,
They turn up all over. Yeah, they turn up all over the galaxy. I figure they're like rats, when they get on a ship, they just go to wherever and another colony of Jawas pops up.
Yeah, maybe they do too. So this is obviously maybe a week or two after the Pirates episode from a couple of weeks back. All good. When this came on screen, this is why, dude, how freaking cool was that? When they've painted the mythosaur skull on the bottom of the ship, that was
I was going to say, that's a lot of cans of Dulux paint there, isn't it?
And the fact that it's red, I love it. Oh yeah, that was that when the ship arrived and it was just low coming into land. I got that visual effects wise, it's outstandingly good. So, love it. Yeah, very very cool. So what it does show is that our covert have moved from the other planet to here. They've got their tents and things set up. They look like normal tents you can get down at one of those camping stores. Nothing really futuristic whatsoever. But I thought it was good to see that, yes, they are established and they're a long way away from the rest of the village. So they're out in the middle of nowhere themselves. I thought that was kind of cool. The ships all land. And this is a significant moment because Paz speaks to his son Ragnar, So Ragnar's going to be feeling happy now. He's not going to be worrying about any monsters. And, of course, it is a significant moment because of what happens to Paz later on. So, for all we know, it was the last time we spoke to Ragnar. So what do you reckon?
Yeah, and it is interesting. His name is Ragnar, which is a very Viking-sounding name. And sometimes the Mandalorian traditions actually kind of do remind me of the Viking ways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It could be too. So Colin said Bunnings must have a paint sale. Yeah, all the red tins have just gone walkies. Dulux red, out the blood, red, out the door. Imagine sitting there, imagine being in space trying to paint the damn thing. It's like, this thing's freaking huge.
Well, just imagine you finally finish painting the Imperial logo on a Super Star Destroyer, and then the Death Star gets destroyed, and they're like, take it off, it's back to the Republic logo.
Love it. And I agree with Daniel. Yeah, seeing the whole Mandalorian fleet, that was epic. It looked awesome. It was really, really cool. The ships land. Now, of course, the covert guys will be sitting there going, hey, they've got ships. How come we don't have ships? So that's another story. And, of course, you got the meeting of the two groups, right? And, of course, just to reiterate, I mean, Mandalorian infighting is like the animosity like religious groups have. Both sides think that what they believe is the correct thing. They don't agree with the other side. But it was a nice, tense moment. I like the fact that these guys on the right-hand side finally took their helmets off. It was cool. And, of course, the guys on the left don't. But they're all going to be part of one big happy family. Let's see how it all unfolds. Now, I like this. When Grief goes, Mando, everybody should have turned around.
Yeah.
Right? That's what, not just Dean, but everyone. And I reckon that would have been the ultimate gag. It's like if you're in a room where you got 15 Steves and you go, Steve, and they all turn in unison. That's what should have happened. And then Grief goes, sorry, kids, I'm after this dude.
I actually did think that was going to happen, but it didn't. I guess any of them have been off by themselves, just get called Mandalorian or Mando or whatever, wouldn't they?
Yeah, well, individually, because he knows Din as Mando, but it's like, well, dude, there's all these other guys. And if he had said Mando, they all turn around. He's like, all right, I've got to start calling you by your name. So, but that was a missed opportunity and would have been a bit of a humorous moment because, all this time he's just dealt with one guy. And now he's got to deal with a whole lot of them. We've discussed this in the past of our reviews regarding some of the props that are being produced in the show. And you go, oh, who's going to be 3D printing that? Got to admit the wine bottle. How good was that? That was very cool.
I know. If you're a sci-fi fan, between Star Wars and Star Trek, you can get a whole wine collection going with the Romulan Ale and now the Mandalorian bottles of stuff, can't you?
That was awesome. Yeah, I thought that was very, very cool. But we reach a critical point in the show, right? Okay, we've seen our Mandalorians have all landed. Din's got his bottle of wine. All good. But the show is lacking something, clearly, at this point. And that is clearly the ringing of cash registers. as suddenly there's an opportunity to produce more action figures than ever before. And of course, it is new IG-12 with optional cash cow. Oh, dude, what is the deal with
Well,
this?
when you said the ringing of cash registers, I was thinking the ringing of cowbells, actually. But
Well, it is. Yeah, the
I,
moo moo
I,
moo.
I told you the story, and I'll tell everyone. Gee, it really works, because when he is in that unit and he's pushing yes, 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 no, 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 my wife Janelle is going, "Oh, he's so naughty, isn't he? Oh, isn't that cute?" And I'm like totally sucked in by like the cuteness of the cash cow.
Love it. Yeah, it's the Star Wars version of a Hulkbuster. Oh my god, how about that? Okay, a whole and I thought it almost brought the sequence to the entire show to a standstill. We go, oh, he's too young for it. No, stick him in there. I like Grief says, oh, chuck him in anyway, it'll all be good. And he's in there and he's pressing no, yes, yes, yes. Oh my
Even
god.
even I had to smile where he was stealing food and putting his hand on the Mandalorian to stop him from correcting it, so the Mandalorian had to pay for stuff. Even I smiled at that and thought it was funny.
Yeah. I mean, it's clearly a way to get him moving around a lot more easily, and of course he can communicate now. And it
He
was
could, yes.
ingenious. And I don't know who would have thought of it and said, well, we've got IG-11, he's busted up still. Let's just shove the kid in that and let's see what happens. And it's
Do you
geez.
know the ultimate sci-fi conversation is Grogu with Captain Pike? No, no, beep, beep. Yes, no, beep, 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 beep.
Oh god, tell you what, he's like bite from. Actually, he is like bit like it's bit, and it's not bite, it's bit. From Tron, yeah, yes, no, oh, unbelievable, and it did work, and I agree with you. I mean, when he's in the market scene, it's hysterical. As someone pointed out, because he's so he's now a typical disobedient kid. As someone
Yeah.
said, like Grogu's going through his terrible 52s at the.
Well, I did think what they've actually done is kind of follow the formula for Groot, where Groot was so
Yeah,
cute when he was a baby, and then he became a teenager and wouldn't do anything anyone said, and it's sort of worked in Guardians of the Galaxy, so it works here. I do think it's a good move. People are going to go, well, that's the next step, and everyone's going to want the hot toy IG-12 with Grogu inside.
yeah, we've actually got a friend of ours, Spankin. He's got a 1-to-1 scale Grogu, and I saw him last night. I said, "Dude, all you got to do now is 3D print the rest of the IG-12, and mate, you'll be good to go." So I love it every time Grogu isn't on screen. Everybody's going, "Where's Grogu?" Yeah, exactly right. So, and I got to admit, right, despite and it was clever, right? Could there be a more annoying sequence when they're just walking down the street and he's going, "Yes, yes, yes"? Freaking hell!
It could have been worse. They could have put a button in there that says, "Are we there yet?"
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, love it. And you are right. Yes, good on Natasha. Yes, they're so cute. And it was, and you're not the only one who got sucked in. My other half, Lynn, as I said earlier, at the start of the show, no idea what's going on with all these Imperials and whatever. Sees Grogu stuck in IG-11, which is now IG-12, and completely goes, oh my God, that is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Well,
Absolutely ingenious.
someone important who I forget their name has said it before, but the Force is female, isn't it? And it's really sucked in a lot of other halves with the Grogu this season.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. So it was good. But the question is, like, IG-11 died a hero, saving every one of us. Now we know they ripped his statue apart to try and get him fixed up, but instead of putting him back in the statue, and we're not too sure. I know there was a question here about whether his legs and arms, where the original thing was destroyed or not in the pirate attack. But you think that's what you call desecrating the dead, isn't it? It's like, oh, let's put him back the way he was as a statue. Let's worship him as a hero. No. Let's just shove a kid in there and just activate him like a toy.
You
Oh, wow.
just imagine the reunion of old bounty hunters where he turns up and all the bounty hunters are like, "Yeah, I fought for Jabba the Hutt. I fought for someone else," and he goes, "I've got a baby Bjorn with Grogu sitting inside."
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's almost like the symbiotic relationship, isn't it? And you are right. It's a Disney ride opportunity. Yeah, absolutely ingenious. Grogu, the character was ingenious, and stick him in the IG-12 was ingenious as well.
I've got a ride for you. Imagine this: there's a roller coaster, and it's all IG-12s, and you climb in, and they strap you in, and then you sort of go around the roller coaster in IG-12. One of those you hang down underneath things.
And 2 buttons. Yes, yes, yes. No. Absolutely fantastic. It was very, very clever. It was very, very cute, even though it did bring the episode to a standstill. And poor old Din, it just has to have to deal with it. So, all right. Now, I don't know if you picked up on this, right? So it's nighttime. We've got a big barbecue going on. Someone has pointed out and asked, is that one of the foundlings, one of the raptor birds? So, it didn't last long. They decided to stick him on the spit. It's like maybe they stuck a helmet on it. He took the helmet off and said, right, that's it. You're off to the barbecue, son.
it pets the wrong Mandalorian, so onto the spit you go. So just imagine how many Ewoks that could feed.
So what happens? You put a helmet on all the three raptors, right? One takes it off, and then the other two later on see him on the spit and they go, "That's it, it's staying on." Oh, I had to laugh at that. And in case you're wondering why our guys, our covert, look so miserable, is because for them to eat the barbecue, they've got to walk 100 miles just to take their helmets off, whereas all our usual guys can just sit there and chow down and have a whale of a time. So no wonder these guys would be just so unhappy. What do you reckon?
Well, imagine how the inside of the helmets get sticky with like the sticky raptor ribs that you have to eat with your fingers and put up inside the helmet kind of thing. Not great.
No, you can't get a drumstick up there. Yes, they taste like chicken. Absolutely fantastic. They've done this in the series, and I thought they didn't need to do this. I saw it happens twice, and I picked out the first time I saw it, and I go, "Oh, guys, you're killing me." It's when they flip images, right? Because the Mandalorian helmets have they're asymmetrical with the rangefinder. They could have digitally removed it from this side and put it on that side, right? But geez, and it happens later on in the show as well. Really annoys me when they do that because or that or pick a helmet that doesn't have the rangefinder attached and you'd never know. But yeah, that kind of shit me a little bit. So
yeah, that has happened a couple of times. It happened in the Book of Boba Fett a lot as well.
Yeah, and of course it happened originally with Boba Fett in Return of the Jedi when he first appeared in Jabba's palace. But there you go. I like it from Blake, from who my next door neighbor. Join a cult, get put on the spit. This is the way. Yes, exactly right. Very, very good. So, yeah, they say to you, they're going to be spitting at me. No, you're going to be put on the spit. So, yes, indeedy, doody, dotty. All right. I know we're going through this pretty quickly, but there's a lot to cover off and we don't want to spend too much time on it. So, good old Bo, right? So, it's her moment to shine. She's telling everybody we're going to go back to Mandalore and all the rest of it. So, she gets to lead her people for the second time. And for those who don't know, if you're the leader of Mandalore, you're actually classed as Mandalore. That's actually the term they use. So, she's getting to go back to the planet with all of her people to check it out, and hopefully they can migrate back there again, which I thought was kind of cool. And of course, when they get there, isn't that great imagery? Absolutely loved it. I was just the visual effect that just really, when they came out of hyperspace, it really pushed my buttons.
I have a feeling next week we're going to see some Star Wars.
Indeedy, you never know. Probably will. I don't know about you, but some people said, "Hang on, this shot looks like we've seen it before from the Pirates episode." Remember that when they all drop out of the dropship? And I thought, okay, we've seen the same thing again. So, but anyway, still looks good.
I did wonder what was the point of dropping them, because they dropped them and then they landed next to them and they got out the ship and walked away with them.
They had to secure the landing zone, so they get down there and they go, the landing zone secure. Then, of course, if you're the bad guys, you just wait for the ship to land, then you attack. But let's not worry about those details.
Okay, it looked cool, but I did wonder, they sort of all went down and go, and the ship lands and they're all back together. I'm like, well, that was pretty pointless.
Yeah, well, it'd be pretty surreal for a lot of the guys. They all get there. Some of them have never been on Mandalore. Some haven't been there since the place was destroyed. It would be a bit of a PTSD moment for a lot of people. Going, oh my God, what are they? My house used to be just over there, and it's like it's all been bombed to the Scheisenhausen. So yeah, it'd be an interesting moment for a lot of the people. I thought, because no one really said anything when they landed, they're just looking around. But I thought, yeah, it'd be an interesting moment for everybody. Then this happened. So if you're not going to build an IG-12 toy, stuff that, throw it out the window. You reckon Hasbro looked at that and said, "Oh, dude, we got to make one. We'll make one of these. What is it? I don't know, but it looks good."
That's the HasLab Mandalorian skiff right there.
What the hell's the deal with this?
It's got everything. It's got anti-grav. It's got skiff wings. It's got what look like sails on it, but they're not unspooled. I thought the imagery almost looks like the Da Vinci version of a helicopter as well. It's quite a weird vehicle.
Actually, that's a good way of looking at it. Actually, yeah, it's like the real steampunk sort of feel to it, eh? So, a sail barge that literally is a sail, it just sails along the thing, and it's like, oh, okay. Now, this is an interesting one. We introduce 3 random dudes, right? Okay, fair enough. But of course, later on, now we are jumping ahead here. They say to Bo, "Yeah, we take you to the Great Forge, no problem." How is it that these 3 turkeys didn't know that there was an Imperial base under there?
I figure the planet is so huge that maybe they just never went back there or something. I don't know. It was one of those things. There was a lot of stuff in this episode that I really love the episode. There's a few things that don't make any sense, but we'll talk about it as we get to them, I guess.
Yeah, no, because as some people have said, the episode is called "The Spies," as in plural. Now we know we've picked out Elia Kane, so yeah, because she's obviously a spy. So who's the other spy? And I thought straight away people are picking out the three dudes, thinking, well, maybe it's those guys because they would have. Great Forge's over there. Have you been down there? Nah. Why not? Well, because there's an Imperial base down there. Don't worry about that. Anyway, and we haven't met them. We don't even know who these guys are. So yeah. Axe says to Paz that he was there when it happened, and Paz says it's worse than he thought. That's exactly right. I think there's actually instances in this episode where you got a lot of extras or featured extras speaking. So when they were actually at the barbecue and they said, who's going to go to Mandalore? All these random dudes just stood up and said, I will go, I will go, I will go. I thought, geez, the budget must have really been pumped up to pay for all these people. Yet when they get to Mandalore, no one actually says a word. So Axe and Paz have a chat in the ship, but when they land, no one says anything. So I thought, okay.
I did think the interaction between I guess the secondary characters, there wasn't a lot of it, but a lot of it that there was kind of really good character building. And because the Mandalorians don't actually talk a lot, when they do say something that isn't "this is the way," it often adds to that character's personality a lot, just through very simple, dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. And because in TV, even TV movie budgets, as soon as someone speaks, they get paid more. And I thought you could have Paz stands up, Din says that, Armorer stands up, and then you hear I'll go from off screen, so they don't have to physically pay actors. But they actually had actors popping up, including unhelmeted ones. And I thought, look, so those guys all got paid extra. So good on them.
You've got Grogu on the phone to his agent going, they're making me say yes or no. Can we negotiate for more pay this episode?
The agent says, which button will I press? No. Oh, dear. Absolutely fantastic. I like it. Yeah, barbecue did remind you of the Council of Elrond from Lord of the Rings. Exactly right. This show reminds us of everything. Sorry, what was that?
What does the Mandalorian say at the barbecue? This is the fillet.
No, you're an idiot. All right, so Bo spills the beans, right? And how she gave Mandalore up to Gideon. I mean, to be fair, Ben, she didn't have much of a choice, right? Now, this is where, funnily enough, she mentions about the Night of 1,000 Tears. The sequence that we saw in the Book of Boba Fett, which was absolutely freaking awesome, right? When you got the K2SO, that's the name of the character, the assassin droids, whatever they're called, destroying the bejesus out of everything and the TIE bombers. That should have been shown here, right? Even if they had a truncated version of it, because not everybody saw the Book of Boba Fett, and it would have been just really cool to say, why is the planet busted? Oh, we need to see that. And I thought that was a missed opportunity just to reflect back while she's talking to say, this is what actually happened. So
how bad were the Imperials where she says they bombed every inch of the planet twice? So they reduced it to rubble, and then just in case they went and did it again.
Mate, it's like destroying aliens. It's the only way to be sure.
The other thing that I think will come back in this episode, when she said, I surrendered, obviously that is something Mandalorians do not do. And they all looked very shocked that she admitted that and that she had done that. I think that will come into play next episode because they made such a big deal of everyone's reaction to that. I'm thinking next episode, things are going to go down really bad and she's going to do something where they think she's surrendered again, but maybe she's running off to get some giant mythosaur beast or something.
I don't know. Maybe. You have to wait and see. So, mate, speculation for next week. I've got to say, absolutely love that. And I think a few people have said this Grogu should be known as Krang, from Ninja Turtles. Yeah, exactly right. Absolutely love it. All right, so what I thought was interesting, right? Good old Bo makes a point of saying that, how, and we mentioned this earlier about how Mandalorians, all this infighting, and that's what drove them apart, right? Yet she herself, in the Clone Wars, was part of a faction which tried to overthrow the government with violence. So hypocritical, if you don't mind, umpire. And she was part of all that, trying to overthrow her sister Satine when she was part of the ruling class of Mandalore in the first place. So I was like, back in your box, Bo. What's the deal with that?
Well, I think the thing is that one of the reasons the Imperials stayed in power is they bred, I guess, animosity between different planets. So they were too busy fighting each other than to worry about the Imperials. And I think that was one of the things that was happening with Mandalore, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it definitely. And of course, it's just funny when you say, well, yeah, all this infighting kind of didn't help, but yet you yourself were part of the infighting. It's like, well, that's there's a lesson to be learned for you there, lady. There you go. So Din comes up to Bo, right, and does the whole bowing of the head and all this sort of stuff. And I thought, is this his way of saying, is it the character's way of saying that he's formally handing the show over to her? So the Mandalorian going forward is not about him; it's actually about her. Because a lot of people have been stating how his presence is sort of becoming a bit insignificant. And I thought, well, you can shift it from him to her. It doesn't have to be about him, even though it was in season 1 and 2. So just the way it was done. I thought, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but yeah.
I
Cool.
thought it was a nice scene because we haven't seen anything like this in The Mandalorian before. He has always been one who never has allegiances, will only do something for a bounty. And this is the first time he's actually, nailed his standard to something and said, this is why I'm fighting for you.
Yeah. And I thought, oh, that's kind of groovy, isn't it? So, very cool. All right, let's get into some controversial stuff, right? The show is called The Spies. Who are the spies? How is it that the armorer says that she's going to do a Mickey whoop with the wounded, knowing fully well that our troops are heading to the Great Forge, right? And there's speculation going everywhere that maybe she's the one who's in league with Gideon, and maybe the intention is for her to rule Mandalore herself by killing everybody else or getting them all destroyed. Did she know that there was an Imperial base on Mandalore? And she's getting out of Dodge while she can. Make of this what you will. Some say yes, some say no. What do you reckon?
I don't know. I kind of think, why would she unite all the Mandalorians against them unless it is a trap to kill them all in one go? We will see. I don't think she is, because usually religious zealots are the last ones to be corrupted because just of their upbringing in religion, but who knows?
Because I mean, it's coming in later on when she's flying off in the ship back to the fleet, and I thought one of two things are going to happen. She's going to be land on the ships in the fleet, and the fleet gets destroyed, and she dies off, or she intentionally flies away. I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. It's a bit of they'd have to do a lot of explanation as to why that's the case. But there's a lot of theories going around. Well, maybe it's her, and there are some people who just flatly refuse to accept this. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. What do you benefit from it? But you never know. So just putting it out there. So, but yeah, she is leaving when our troops are about to get in. Our heroes are about to get themselves into a trap. So make of that what you will. Very cool. Regarding what Din said to Bo, it's his way of proposing to her. So yeah, maybe that's the case. It's like,
and this is
he's
why
almost
Daniel
down on one knee saying, let's get married." Yeah.
This is why Daniel is single.
Dude, you're doing it wrong. You got to do the hand of the chest and the bow and all sort of bizarre. So
yeah,
very cool. All right, so it's a quiet moment on the ship. Now, we've seen variations of poker, obviously Sabak, pool, which we saw in a couple of episodes ago, and of course we've got the Dijara chess set from the Millennium Falcon. But then now there's another chess set in the galaxy far, far away, and believe it or not, it's actually called chess. How freaking boring is that?
what a coincidence that chess here is called exactly the same as chess there. Unbelievable.
What an unbelievably boring name. Absolutely fantastic. And I do love the fact that Axe says is like, dude, it's just the game, right? They're going to have a bit of a Barney over that. I thought that was quite good. It was a good fight scene. And as Bo said, look, it was going to happen sooner or later. And of course, Grogu sticks his nose in and tells them to stop. And some people have speculated that maybe he is just over all the violence and the infighting, and now he can finally do something about it. So,
yeah, I thought it was a good scene. I did wonder if you would see one side back down or the other, and I think neither of them could back down. And I think that's a good way. Often when you see people play chess in movies, it's to show how intelligent they are. You often see a bad guy playing one of his minions at chess, and then he wins, and then the scene goes on, and that establishes he's smart. This established that neither side of the Mandalorians will back down. They're both equal in their resolve, and I thought that was an interesting way of using the metaphor of a chess game as well.
Yep, true. And I was really happy with that. Like, Axe wasn't intimidated at all, even though Pax is a big guy. Paz is a big guy.
He was almost like, really, we're going to do this?
Yeah,
they do it.
It's like over a chess move. It's like Jeepers Creepers, dude. So, but anyway, it is what it is. All right, so no Mandalorian episode will be the same. I reckon if Ragnar was watching this, he'd be crapping his pants right now. Friggin' big ass monsters pop up, right? Everybody's been asking, what the friggin' hell was the deal with this thing sticking its nose out? And the mindless monster sequence. And even I thought at the time, is this the mythosaur? Right? It's decided to sort of dig its way up to the surface, but no one said anything. Apparently, it's not. But I thought, wouldn't it be funny? Bo said, shit, I don't have to go and get it. It's already here. I'll just jump on and away we go.
Well, I did think if you know these creatures are around, why did the guy up in the crow's nest or whatever it is point to it and go over that way straight to the giant monster? Surely it'd be turn around the other way and go away. Here's my theory, though, which I think I did discuss with Chad and maybe Dags. This series, suddenly they've got the budget for kaijus. You've seen the giant ones on the other planet. You've seen the raptors. You've seen the snapping turtles. And I think they've used this over this season, including this one, to show you that you can fire at these things with spaceships and weapons and they do nothing. And that's got in, because we haven't really had anything like this in The Mandalorian up to now, apart from the Crate Dragon, which was its own episode. So I think when you do get the Mythosaur in the next episode, they've already established now through this season in canon that those troopers are going to go up against it and it will do absolutely nothing.
Yep. Yeah, works for me. I've got no problem with that at all. But it's clearly a big beast, and instead of like attacking it, unlike the thing on the planet that was in the crocodile thing, right? This time, instead of fighting this thing, they decide to run from it. So they clearly have learnt from what happened last time. So,
yes.
But yeah, good point. Absolutely love it. It was a plot point. Yes, destroy their meanings of escape. Yeah, I know, but it was a bit of a wanky way of doing it. They could have easily just parked the ship out the front of the Great Forge and just walked down there and go, oh, there's an Imperial base here. Who knew? Anyway, whatever. Unless you keeping it simplistic, it was for the kids watching the show going, oh my God, there's a big monster. Jeepers creepers, Yeah. Jack up the ratings. What's IG-12 going to do now?
Some spelunking. Spelunk.
Does Grogu look at the monster and go, geez, hey, Grogu, do you want to chow down on that? Yes. All right, we're underground. It's all good. Now we're getting to the serious part of the show, right? Imperials in Beskar mine from Mandalore, right? And despite the white armor, they're not Imperial super commandos, as was mentioned earlier, and I'll explain why in a tick. The answer is actually in the episode, right? But these guys look pretty groovy. They've got the jetpacks on. They land down. They're all shooting. It's all completely going crazy. And it looked very, very groovy. Now, Axe decides to bail out at this point, right? So is he getting out? Because he's the spy. He's aware of what's coming up next. There's a gap in the ceiling. I'm off, guys. I'll go get some help. And he's done the Mickey whoop. So if it's not the armorer, could it be Axe? So I don't know.
Yeah.
And we haven't mentioned Grief as well. Grief could also be a spy as well, but who knows?
Yeah. I thought they've played it really well where he's got out to try and warn them, but they've also already established that the planet is so covered with storms that you can't get any messages in or out. You don't know if the armorer going through is a spy or not, so you don't know if that's going to work. So I thought this was really ratcheting up the story plots and the tension in a good way this episode.
Totally agree with you. And we did note that because Mandalorian, nothing gets in or out in terms of signals and whatever. You can hide things down there. And we said in the episode where Bo Katan's castle was destroyed that when the ships came out of nowhere, maybe there was a base on Mandalore and they were hiding there. And it turns out we were right. There was. So who knew it was right at the Great Forge? They could have been on the other side of the world, but there they are. And I thought it was kind of cool. So they're just walking through all these caverns and they end up in this corridor. Here we go. There's TIE interceptors hanging. I like the way they hang, which is kind of interesting, sort of hang downwards, which is different. And they end up at this base. So, but we thought at the time it was Thrawn's base, and it wasn't. It was clearly Gideon's. But we were right. So if you're going to hide a base anywhere, Mandalore's the place to do it. So,
and it's pretty obvious because Mandalore is rich in minerals and Beskar and all the stuff that you could build an army on, and it's got this whole mystique of poison, so no one's ever going to go there. So. Yeah. I didn't know it was going to be Gideon there, but I'm like, of course. So it is good when you can have a plot point like that makes sense, but it still fools some of the audience.
Yep. At least we know where the Beskar came from on the shuttle. And, of course, the Imperials have been mining Beskar from Mandalore, as we saw from Season 1. They had Beskar with the ingots. I think it was Season 1, where the ingots were stamped with the Imperial logo, and that was Beskar then. So now we know where it's coming from. These guys have planted themselves at the Great Forge, even though the fires have gone out. Make of that what you will. All good. And they show the hanging fighters and the Endor siegers. Yeah, absolutely. Normally they hang, but they're facing forwards. Not these guys are hanging, they're pointing downwards. But what the hell? It looked good. Not important. What is important is that Gideon pops up with his Maul-inspired helmet, and this is the conspiracy theories kicking in, much like the armorers, because her helmet is similar because you've got the spiky bits. Blinking chest lights. As to why he's got blinking chest lights is anybody's guess. And I found out today I can't pronounce that, Karlata, whatever it is. Karata is the chest piece in the middle, right there, which is on Mandalorian armor, represents the heart. and he's chucked that in as well. So he is really fully embracing his Mandalorian stuff. What do you reckon, dude?
I thought this was interesting because this is going to be like the biggest insult to the genuine Mandalorians that he's turned up mimicking Mandalorian armor and corrupting it to make an Imperial as well. Excuse me.
Well, that's right. So all the other guys are wearing white. He's gone all the whole black, and it looked good. He lands like, oh yeah. I mean, clearly that's like you put that stuff on. It's like doing the cosplay thing. You're standing in front of the mirror, going, "Mate, I look so cool. Check me out." And it does look good too. I've got to say that. But I thought it was interesting. He's put the horns on. It's like, yeah, right, I do. Whatever the deal is with that. Mandalorian Super Commando Captain, check that helmet against Gideon's. Yeah, sit tight, Mr. Rico. I'm going to explain to you where these guys have come from. Don't jump the gun too far ahead. But it's important to realize we've got the doors are shut. They fight. You right there? Have a drink, dude. I know this is an exciting part of the show. I don't want you dying just yet. So it would make sense that Gideon would have a beef with Din, right? After what happened in season 2, right? He would be pretty irked at him. Did you think he was going to take his helmet off? Because I certainly did.
I thought he was as well, but they didn't. Sorry, I'm just going to grab a water.
Oh, Jesus Christ. In the middle of a show. Bloody hell, I've lost my... Oh, I'll have to do this thing by myself now. All right, I'm going to kick him off altogether. All right, so it's just me. I've lost my co-host. So what did everybody else think? Do you think he was going to take his helmet off, as in Din's helmet off in front of everybody? It'd be the ultimate humiliation for poor old Din Djarin, who's been keeping his helmet on in front of the Creed this entire time. Everybody's behind the door, and suddenly there he is. Oh, you're back again, are you? So here you go. Note to self, bring water to episode, dude.
It was on the floor just behind the computer. Sorry.
All right. So did you think he was going to take the helmet off?
No, I didn't. No, yes, I did. When he didn't take the helmet off, I was surprised.
Yeah, I thought it was an absolute, I was a no-brainer. So it was interesting. He said, I'll take him away for a debriefing, and we're going to discuss that in a tick. Christy, who's in the middle of an intermission. I think she's at the movies at the moment. Gideon armor is a Darth Vader ripoff. Yeah, we said that at the start of the show. Clearly, he's channeling his inner Vader, which is fair enough, because I once said, who's to say he's not a Vader fanboy? I mean, he could have been working on a Star Destroyer back, X-Men decades of years ago. Vader walks past, that is a cool dude. If I get a chance to emulate you, I will. The Empire's all being destroyed at the end of Jedi. Here's the last one left. Beauty. I'll stick on the black. We're good to go. So,
and black is also very slimming.
It is indeed very, very cool. All right, so everybody's been asking, who the hell is in these stormtroopers, the Death Troopers, right? The answer is in the episode, depending on how you interpret what is said, right? Gideon actually says, read the Dark Troopers, it has me in it. So does that mean that these are all enhanced clones of him, right? He's been doing the cloning thing, right? We know he's got a bit of a fascination for it. I think, and I'm not the only one who thinks that they're all him, and they are clones. They're not Imperial Super Commandos, which are Mandalorians who turned against the Mandalorians. If that makes sense. They're clones of him. What do you think?
Well, when I saw that, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if when he said they're all me in it, there's that he designed them and they're droids like the last batch, or they are clones. We don't think that they've got the cloning technology to do this yet, though, do we?
Well, that's the thing, because we've seen all the VATs in previous episodes, right? And there's been a lot of experience. And a lot of people assumed, these are early versions of Snoke. But what if, in fact, they're early versions of him, right? Now, you're right. He did need the cloning technology from Pershing. Maybe that was for something else. I don't know. Or maybe he's going to boost them up even more. He's been after Grogu's blood for a long time now, right? So maybe he's actually just jacked up versions of him. Now, who knows? It's probably not. But the fact that he says it has me in it, right? That I don't think, from a design perspective, that doesn't mean anything. But he could interpret it literally. So there you go. Because the thing is, as pointed out, I'll just get this part in. He clearly wants to rule the galaxy himself, right? He's sick of Thrawn. He's sick of all these other guys. Now, the problem we've got, and this is what we were discussing earlier, if the sequel trilogy movies never existed, for all we know, it worked. But he doesn't appear in those movies. He's not even referenced in the films. So clearly he loses, right? He's going to lose, die, get killed off. The whole thing's going to go bad for him. If those movies never existed, we would never know. But unfortunately, they do. So whatever happens, Gideon, he ain't going to last the next 20, 30 years.
The thing for me is cloning technology existed really easily with the clones. Did they lose all that technology? Is it suddenly hard, or was it outlawed so they don't have the people to do it anymore, or what?
The thing about the cloning thing, so when they cloned Jango Fett, they made a complete duplicate of him. They just put in growth inhibitors so they grow faster, right? But for the most part, they're identical to him. So if you're going to say make a clone of you don't want to be an exact copy of you. You want to be a jacked up version of you. So think, okay, how can I boost the intelligence? How can I boost the strength? How can I boost the targeting and the perception? All if you're a D&D player, how you can boost up your level yourself up. That's probably what the deal is. So as he said, he's learned a bit from the Kaminoans. Maybe he's taken bits from the Jedi. He's taken bits from here, taken bits from there, and he's done a modified version of himself. That's how I interpreted that.
So what happens if you're Gideon and you make a better version of yourself? Because surely that's when he takes over and gets rid of you.
That's right. And that's an interesting point. Some people have said, hang on, well, what if you kill the real one and another one just takes his place and you can't tell the difference? That's exactly right. For all we know, the actor could be around for 100 years because it's just different versions of him. And we don't know which one the real one is. Good point. So there you go. Daniel said, referring to his suit being the Phase 3. It could be, right? But he actually says it. It has me in it, right? And that can be interpreted exactly literally. So I thought that was kind of cool. And he has been discussing the cloning thing. Very, very good. He could have survived and kicked out of the Empire and not invited the First Order. Yeah, but the thing is not referenced anywhere, right? So, I mean, Thrawn isn't either, but, what the hell? So, very cool. Betty gets killed by Thrawn. Yeah, there's a lot of theories behind that. Gideon will die at the hands of Thrawn. That makes sense. Very good. Not sure if it's canon. The Emperor killed the cloners and destroyed Kamino. Yeah, that's all in, what's the latest series? Bad Batch. Bad Batch. Kamino was destroyed by the Empire. Only one Kaminonian survived, and that they're on Tantus at the moment. If you've been watching Bad Batch, so yep. So Kamino is gone. Good old Moff. Blake said Moff becomes the brunch for the Mythosaur in the final. Well, you never know. He might, but he ain't going to go the distance. You can almost guarantee that. Oh, very good. Good stuff. I love this speculation. Very, very cool. All right. The doors come down, and everybody says, all right, instead of fighting the bad guys, we're going to go the other way. So Bo shoves the Darksaber in the door, and people said, well, why don't you shove the Darksaber in the other door and save Din and the other guys? They're going to just turn tail and run. What do you reckon, dude?
I did wonder that. Like, you would think there were other options than cutting that door out, which seemed the thickest wall out of all of them.
Yeah, it was kind of funny, isn't it? So they're all watching what's happening at the other end. Instead of saying we're going to fight to the death and save our heroes, we're going to just bail out the other way. And you do see IG-12 run away as well. So
yeah,
I thought it was kind of funny. So,
I did think it was cool that you kind of were led into the Imperial base where it's looking like Mandalore. Then you see some Imperial sort of cladding on the wall. And I do think, like intergalactic IKEA does well out of the Imperials, because every single planet, they use the same sort of base design for all of them, the same paneling in the wall and everything. So are there transporters coming in from intergalactic IKEA delivering all this? Surely you'd think they would just use like materials that were already on Mandalore for building the base.
Oh, don't know, dude. Don't forget that base could have been there for over 10 years. I mean, after they did the Night of 1,000 Tears, the next day somebody walks in and goes, well, look at the Great Forge. Let's just build a base there. How good is that? Because there's still Beskar to be mined, so you never know. Greco, sure. I agree with you. It was a terrible idea. It was a choke. It was just a small hole in the door. You think the first person through would press the open button, but no, they all just get through the hole. Could have ended very badly. So, very, very good. Was it? Hope Bo doesn't ride the Mythosaur to save day. She definitely will. Well, there's a no-brainer. Echoing what happened in Boba Fett with Boba and the Rancor, no doubt she will be riding it high and dry and destroying and killing absolutely everybody. But in the interim, this I liked. So Paz stays behind, right? Whether he had to or not is another thing. I did like this. Like in a video game, the gun is overheating, and that looked very cool. So Old Painless is feeling a bit of pain at the moment. And for those who haven't put two and two together, even though the Dark Troopers are wearing Beskar armor, there's a lot of gaps in the armor. It's everywhere, right? Whereas his armor is really well sealed up. He's like a medieval knight. And that's the reason why I think he could survive so many hits, but why he was able to kill so many dudes. So for those who didn't pick up on that. So, yeah.
The other thing that I thought you've learned through the series, the longer you are a Mandalorian, the more Beskar bits you get on your armor. Because he was the last one that was sort of standing with the armor, you would think he's probably, like you were saying, the most complete covering with Beskar armor that they've got.
Yeah, because some people had said, hang on, if the Death Troopers, Dark Troopers are wearing Beskar, why are they all getting knocked off so quickly? It's because they've got gaps absolutely everywhere. So, and because he's shooting so many lasers, at some point he's going to hit something that's vulnerable. So, yeah, very, very cool. Yes, good stuff. Now, the Praetorian, I forgot about these guys, right? These puppies turn up, and I got to admit, did they look freaking awesome? And of course, we only knew the Praetorian Guard from Last Jedi when they were with Snoke. So clearly they've been around a lot longer than that. So who are they? Where they come from? Now you can argue and say, okay, maybe they're a step up for the Emperor's Royal Guards, but make it that way we will. But these puppies did look good, I got to say, and they were a genuine threat. Really liked it.
Well, I kind of like the whole Crimson Empire storyline where the Imperial Guards were trained as, like, I guess, Imperial bodyguards, and you kind of think that they will come across over to the Praetorian Guards with the same kind of training, even better. What I did like is they had the same weapons that they had in, the sequel trilogy introduced going backwards, and I thought it was filmed better because it was darker, and they were more deliberate. In the fight scene with Kylo Ren and Rey, it seemed very, very coordinated. Yeah, and in this, it seemed more like a natural fight. So, like you, I thought it was awesome. I thought they were a lot better than they were in the movie.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So Paz is also noted as a heavy Mandalorian. Well, he was literally heavy because he's a big guy. The Toys have a stronger arm than the regular guys. Yeah, but when he's standing, whenever you see him standing, he's got hardly any gaps anywhere, right? So, and that would have helped. So, whereas the other guys, like even as we're saying, they went down really quick. That's the reason why. Okay, that's the best explanation I can think of. The Praetorian Guards come along, and I make short work of him, and I go, "Oh, dude, that is seriously going to leave a mark." When they shove this thing into his back, I was like, "Oh, dude, what's the deal with that?"
Yes, the good thing is the fight wasn't overblown. They just came in and methodically took him out, and that kind of shows you what a threat they actually are.
Oh, yeah, and they just walk off like it's nothing. So wherever they spend their time normally, they are a serious bunch of bad boys, and I really liked it. And of course, you see, Pearl Paz has sort of done his bit, and that's the end of him. So, and there's like freaking corpses just about everywhere. So, unbelievable, really, really good. Now, someone has said. Now, I usually post a quote from a fan who's been watching this episode, and I thought this was an interesting one. Now, Din has gone off with debriefing with Gideon, right, or whatever that is. Okay. Someone has suggested, and I'm going to read this one. I didn't write this. Someone else wrote this, right, regarding his debriefing. The more sensible and moderately more likely twist for the end of the season would be that Din finds out, even from Gideon, it would be funny if it was from Gideon, that his childhood village was destroyed in part by Death Watchers doing, and that the armorer and maybe even Bo Katan knew it, and that was a fan. So, in other words, when we first saw that the village being attacked and destroyed by the battle droids, maybe the Death Watch were involved somehow. So in the end, all the people he thought were Din's friends are actually the ones who instigated the attack. I don't know, just a theory. So there you go. What do you reckon, dude?
Who knows? I guess I hadn't read that one, so it would make a good twist. I don't really know going forward how it is going to play out. Maybe again with Spies, I don't know who the other spy was, but like you said, it'll be revealed next episode. Maybe that will happen. That was one I hadn't seen really coming, but it would be a good way to wrap it all up on Series 3.
Totally agree. Well, that's actually, believe it or not, I had to rush through it because that's so much to get through. It's the end of our slides. A couple of things I've got to do. So as always, for those who aren't aware, so Jeff, make sure you check out all the Sci-Fi Zone socials. There's other things going on besides this show. So on your YouTubes and Instagrams and whatever else. And of course, for all your Star Wars needs, you better get in there quick before he starts dying of bloody coughing fits. What do you reckon, Mr. Aaron? Tell us about your store, son.
It's been another week where we've just got tons and tons of stuff in. Not a lot of Star Wars stuff this week, but a lot more Doctor Who and just across the board, a bit of everything. We do have a lot of vintage collection that's just come in. So anyone who's into Star Wars and collects that, we've got a lot of that in at the moment.
Very good. All right. And just very, very quickly, regarding now, Christy isn't with us tonight. She's actually, as we saw just briefly, she was at some movie or whatever, but she did pass through her Crimson Yawns. Now, remember, the more yawns, the worse it was. The less yawns, the better it was. And she's gone for the full 3 yawns. That's the equivalent of 7 out of 10. So clearly that kind of worked for her. What do you reckon, dude?
That's one of the best ones for her. I give this probably episode about an 8 out of 10. After last week's schlock, this was a bounce right back in the right direction.
Very good. Blake has said, what an episode. And it was good. I mean, the IG-12 thing was a bit wanky from my perspective, but the rest of it I really enjoyed, and I really dial into the whole storyline of the bad guys and what they're on about and what's happening. And, that kind of really worked for me. So, It was good. Yeah, they've done, as someone said, it's probably the best episode of the season because the season has not been the best. But of course, it all leads into what's going to happen next week. And what do you reckon there, dude? It's going.
Well, they've definitely done a great setup for the end of season. If they can land the ending, it might redeem the season. I still think this is the weakest season of the three.
Yep.
But if it goes out with a bang, at least the last two episodes have been brilliant.
Totally agree with you. Very, very good. All right. Well, it's our time for us to buzz off. The final finale is only like in 3 days' time. Excuse me, which means we'll be back next week to dissect that. And once again, I apologize for having to rush through this. We wanted to keep it to just like an hour, and there's a lot of good stuff to cover off. So I know I speak quickly, but hopefully you've all managed to keep up. Have a think about whether those Death Troopers are actually clones of Gideon. Make of that what you will. I reckon that's an interesting sort of twist. So, but next week is the finale, and that's the most important thing. So, any final words before we buzz off for tonight, Mr. Aaron?
I guess we'll see the Mythosaur next week. I don't know how you train one to ride, but it's going to happen pretty quick, I think.
Tell you what, maybe it's the whole thing. As soon as it walks up and sees Bo, and he goes, "That's it, I'm connected to you. Jump on board, and away we go, son." And Din just rides off into the sunset, and suddenly the Mandalorian series is no longer about him. It's all about Bo and whatever happens to IG-12. So make of that what you will. Get ready for those action figures, kids. They're coming.
Quickly, have they confirmed Mandalorian Series 4?
Don't know. I don't think so. I mean, as you mentioned, like with Celebration in Europe last week, they kept it pretty quiet. I don't think they know. As far as I'm aware, there's a lot of contractual issues going on with regards to Pedro, who plays Din, of course. And I think after The Last of Us, his appearance in that, he's kind of looking to get out of the show. That's the reason why his appearances are getting less and less. There's theories going around that he's not even in the suit at all for these episodes. It's just his voice. Now, whether they take his helmet off and he finally gets his face on screen, I don't know. But I do believe behind the scenes, he's a bit of an unhappy camper. So make of that what you will. And that could be where the show's sort of stuck at the moment. So I don't know. So there you go. Very, very good. All right, we're going to buzz off. We'll leave you to it. Next week is the finale. Make sure you join us for that. It should be an absolute blast. And party hard and rock on. And we'll catch you then. Okay, bye for now.
Have a good night, guys. See you.